Hi folks, Chris Voss here from thechrisvossshow.com, thechrisvossshow.com. Hey, we're coming here with another review of versus comparison, if you will, of two excellent top-notch phones. We have the Apple iPhone 5S, the latest to come out from Apple, and the GoogleNexus 5. We're doing a versus comparison between these phones, and with the Nexus 5, a versus comparison with all the phones we have in our arsenal inventory. Please give us a like, subscribe to us on YouTube so you can see all those wonderful versus comparisons. So let's get to it. Let's compare these two units. Now, what's going to be cool about this is the Nexus 5 is available on Google's website for about $350. You can have it sent to you and use it with your GSM carrier, either AT&T or Sprint or some other that you may be able to find. I don't know what else is out there. As opposed to the Apple iPhone 5, it's basically about twice as much if you buy these phones outright. So the glaring difference is double the price. Now, let's get into some of the different features of both these phones. With the Apple iPhone, this is running on the iOS system. It's, I believe it's 7.04 or 7.4 that we're running on right now. With the iOS, it's 4.87 inches in height, 2.31 inches in width, and 0.30 inches in thickness. Comes in at a weight at 3.95 ounces. With the Nexus 5, you're looking at a phone that's running Android. This actually does have the latest Android that just came out, 4.4.2. Many people really enjoy the Nexus because it doesn't have the bloatware of carrier wares, and you can get a really pure system. So a lot of people like that, and you can get the latest updates fairly quickly directly from Google. The height of this is 5.43 inches in height, 2.72 inches in width, and 0.34 inches in thickness. Comes in a little bit heavier than the iPhone. Of course, there's a lot more to it, as you can see. 4.59 ounces, but not too heavy. That's pretty normal. On the iPhone 5S, you're looking at a screen size of 4 inches at 640 by 1136 pixels, 326 ppi, IPS LCD with 16.7 million colors. On the Nexus 5, you're looking at a screen of 5 inches, so a good 1 inch larger screen overall. 1080p, I got to tell you, it's a beautiful screen, and an exceptional PPI, which is your pixels per inch, 445. So it definitely is a lot nicer in quality when it comes to pixels per inch and richness and largeness of screen, of course, too, than the Apple iPhone 5. On the iPhone 5S, you're looking at a camera of 8 megapixels, a 1080p, 30 frames per second video, and on the front-facing camera, you're looking at a 1.2 megapixel camera. It does have one thing that's interesting on the iPhone. It has, if you do 720p HD, you can get down to 120 frames per second, so that's pretty cool, actually. On the camera for the Nexus 5, you're looking at 8 megapixels, 1080p, 30 frames per second, 1.3 megapixels front-facing camera. The chipset that we have in the iPhone is an Apple A7. It's one of the first phones to have a 64-bit architecture. It's got a dual core in it of 1.3 gigahertz. It's got 1 gigabyte of RAM, 16 gigabytes of built-in storage, and of course, you can buy more expensive ones if you want more space, like 32 gig, 64 gig, etc. With the Nexus 5, you are looking at the chipset in it is a Qualcomm Snapdragon 800. Now, these are the very latest to come out of Qualcomm. They're the fastest, the most advanced, and they rock and roll. It's got a quad-core system in it with a 2.26 gigahertz chip. It's got 2 gigabytes of RAM, and it's got 16 gigabytes of built-in storage. With the battery that we have on the iPhone 5S, we have a battery of 1,570 milliamp hours. Fairly small when it comes to iPhones or mobile phones these days. With the Nexus 5, you're looking at 2,300 milliamp hours, so that ends up being a lot better. With the Nexus 5, you have NFC technology, and it also has the, I believe it's the Q or QI technology in it, where you can actually lay this against a charging base, and it will charge without needing any special case. Very cool. Conversely, on the iPhone 5, you don't have that technology, of course, available to you. That's one of the downsides of the iPhone product. So that kind of gives us a rundown between both of these. Now with the iOS system, you've got a fairly simple system where you can flip from left to right in a finite swipe system and be able to go through your stuff. You can build different folders, etc., etc. Many people like the version of the Android where you can swipe back and forth, and of course you can create different folders that you might want to take and have, etc., etc. But you can also do widgets on the Android product. Many people like that. Apple recently adopted the drop-down notification system that Android had for many years, and you can see here you can easily get into it, and of course with the Android you can get into some of your settings and everything else. Things are very simple with the Nexus 5 and as well with the iPhone 5S. Many people seem to like that sort of thing. One new feature of the Nexus 5 is the ability to slide right and go to Google Now. Google Now is kind of presenting that product as something they want people to really use and get people integrated with. And the other nice thing is you can wake up the phone just by saying, "Okay, Google," and you can easily enter search, etc., etc., and get stuff done. So very cool that way. It's kind of their version of Siri, only very different because you can just talk to the phone without having to touch any buttons. Other than that, both have great OSs. It really just depends on what you do. There's more sharing ability and features with more apps on the Android. It's one of the things that I really love about it. So let's talk about the body. We've got a front-facing camera up here, some sensors, and your speaker on the iPhone 5S. We've got fingerprint technology, which is a first for mobile phones, or one of the first for mobile phones, I should say. I think there was one several years ago. But you can basically program it to, when you press your finger on it, it will identify who you are, come out of standby mode, etc., etc., and be able to purchase things on the App Store and without having to use your password or the passcode. So that works out very well in many cases. I find it's okay. One of the problems is if you restart the phone, you still have to enter your passcode, and it kind of becomes a little defeatist where, I don't know, it's a little bit more work to do things, but I don't know. It's really up to you what you think. It's supposed to keep people from stealing your phone and using your phone and everything else, so maybe it does give you a little bit more security. With the Nexus 5, you have front-facing camera, speaker, some small indicators or sensors. You've got a capacitive touchscreen with the back button, home button, and recent app buttons that you may have taken and used. Let's flip these over to the back so you can see them. Now, the one thing about the Nexus 5 that I was kind of stunned by, but I guess it's fine. A lot of the Android phones now have removable backs and removable batteries, so you can flip them out. And they also have usually expandable memory with SD cards. Don't have that on this Android product, but that's fine. It's not a top-of-the-line expensive Android product, but it's very efficient for what it does, which we'll talk about some more. You can see here we've got the rear-facing camera, rear-facing microphone. We've got a flash system that's supposed to give you better stuff, better flashes, photographs, whatever. And you got your aluminum panel in the back. With the Nexus 5, we're looking at the camera eye. We've got your flash, and that's pretty much it. It's got a nice curvature back. Both feel very well in the hand, very ergonomic. They're easy to carry, easy to hold, and easy to fit in your pocket. Let's go ahead and look at the top. Across the top of both devices, you can see on the left we have the iPhone with the power button, and then we have the microphone hole, very small, and then an earphone jack on the far right for the Nexus. On the iPhone 5 below, we have a mute switch, and then we have your volume up and down buttons. On the left-hand side of the Nexus, we have a volume rocker button that's very sleek. On the bottom of both devices, on the iPhone 5S, we have a earphone jack and the speakers and a charge sync port, as well on the Nexus 5 speakers and the sync port. Coming down the right-hand side of both these devices, we have on the iPhone 5S SIM card tray, or nano SIM card tray, I should probably say, and a SIM card tray for the Nexus 5 and your power button. So very simple on the builds with these. Now, one thing I do want to say, I mean, you are talking about a product that is pretty much half the price. One thing that I was kind of discouraged by, the build on it is really solid on the Nexus 5, but the buttons are kind of flaky. They move around a little bit. I don't know if you can hear them. There's some play in them, actually, and they make a little bit of noise that kind of gives them a cheap feel on both the volume button and the power button. Now, it is a cheap phone. That's what you're paying $350 for instead of like $600 or $700, $500. It's a cheaper phone. So there's that aspect to it on what you're getting. You can tell that the iPhone is a very solid quality build. You're not going to get that sort of effect off their buttons and everything else. So that's a major difference that many people can play into. Now, the other thing you're seeing is our camera eye. The camera has been updated with the new 4.4.2 software that comes with the Android. A lot of people complained about the original camera software that came with the Nexus 5. Now it's been updated, and many people seem to be fairly much more happy with the quality. The camera, of course, on the Apple iPhone 5 is legendary and exceptional and shoots incredible pictures. But I got to tell you, I can't see much difference between the Nexus 5 pictures and the Apple iPhone 5 pictures. It really is a matter of opinion and a matter of the photos that are eye in the beholder and what you think is better. I do think the iPhone 5 takes better pictures than the Nexus 5, but I got to tell you, there's not much difference in the quality for me. The Nexus 5 takes really good pictures and does a great job. Now with the iPhone 5S, you've got several different things you can do. You can do slow-mo video, you can do photo, square, pano, you can even do different scene shots, etc., etc. You can do that all with the Nexus 5 also, and of course you can adjust HDR and everything else. You can adjust, edit. The system that's on the Nexus 5 is pretty interesting. You can click different things to adjust your white balance and everything else. You have a little bit more control of the camera with an Android, where you can pretty much change settings like you would on a camera itself. You can switch between video mode, and then we have a panorama mode, and then we kind of have this 360 mode that they've added to the system. And depending upon what you're doing and how you're doing it, you can change different settings to make things work for you in giving different presentations. And it also has a scene mode too. It's got a really good system that just works off of swiping, where I can swipe and get into my pictures and everything else. And of course, it does a great job with pictures. The same thing with the Apple iPhone 5S. It does a great job with pictures too. And as for my money, it's the better phone when it comes to picture taking. But not everyone buys a mobile phone to work as a camera. So that's it. We've got the AT&T iPhone 5S from Apple, and we have from Google, and the Nexus 5. It's got an AT&T chip in it right now, so if that does anything for you, you can go to AT&T.com and check out both these phones and tell them Chris Voss sent you. For my money, I like the iPhone 5S over the Nexus 5, but I'm an Android person, so I definitely would probably use the Nexus 5 more often. But when it comes to quality, build, and everything else, your iPhone 5S is better. This may be an unfair advantage because you're paying almost twice as much more for the phone than the Nexus 5. If you really can say that you're not, for half the price, you're not getting half the phone, you're getting actually a very comparable phone against the iPhone 5, it makes the Nexus 5 look like an incredibly good deal. I mean, just an incredibly good deal. In fact, I was surprised for $350 how much phone you got. So I'm very impressed with the Nexus 5. I think it's a great phone. Depending upon your budget and what you want to take and do, it certainly is probably one of the best Android phones you can buy out there for the price. For the price, let me say, because I won't give you my opinion, but we'll take it from there. Anyway, be sure to watch our other Versus videos. Be sure to give us a like, subscribe to us on YouTube, and watch us compare the Nexus 5 against a whole plethora of other phones that we have, about 20 in our inventory. So watch for those. Thanks for coming by. Be sure to check back in often.